What is USAID and what does it do? Before I tell you what USAID is and what it does, first we have four actors. We have USAID itself, we have Elon Musk, we have something called DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, and we have the White House or the President. Now, USAID is the United States Agency for International Development, and it was set up in the early 1960s to administer humanitarian aid programs on behalf of US governments. And it has employed around 10,000 people around the world, two-thirds of which work overseas. Now, USAID was believed to carry a range of activities, for example, providing food in countries where people are starving, extend assistance to countries recovering from disaster, help countries to try escape the situation of poverty, help countries to engage in democratic reforms, promote health programs such as vaccination in countries where the disease is still circulating, helping to stop the spread of viruses which have potential cause of pandemic like Ebola, and also they were funding countries to fight HIV and AIDS. Also, you should remember that USAID also assisted countries in acquiring energy, security, and also fight against corruption, or you can call it anti-corruption work.
And how much did USAID cost the government of US, and which countries benefited from this aid?
Now, according to investigation from the current US administration, indicates that the previous administration spent around $68 billion in 2023 only, $72 billion in 2024 through USAID. So the total was spread across several departments and agencies, but USAID government constitutes of more than half of that. And remember, a total of US annual government spending is $6.75 trillion. The vast majority of USAID money was spent on Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, part of Arab world, and primarily on humanitarian efforts in Usaid. And majorly because of this, the US was world's biggest spender on international development by a wide margin. Do you have examples of countries which received the most aid from USAID? For example, Ukraine received $14.4 billion through USAID. Jordan received $770 million through USAID. Yemen received around $359.9 million, and Afghanistan received $332 million through USAID. Now, USAID isn't the only US agency that disburses foreign aid, but it is the biggest spender with a kitty of around $42 billion, followed by the State Department with around $19 billion, all totaling to over $60 billion from US only.
And how does Elon Musk come in this picture?
Now, Elon Musk is the wealthiest individual in the world, owner of SpaceX, Tesla, Twitter, and so on. But above all, he is a close friend and a close ally to the current American president. So these two people share the same opinion and vision for the United States of America. And they were on the view that the United States citizens were being overtaxed, majorly through USAID. They were on the view also that all this were being done rather than develop the USA itself. And this heavy taxation was putting a heavy burden to a common American citizen who was not feeling the worth of being taxed. So this makes the head of state to appoint Elon Musk as the special government official, empowering him as a commander and enforcer that can help investigate the government spending and check the federal bureaucracy, the core. And that is when the Department of Government Efficiency, or you can call it DOGE, was formed.
So what exactly is the work of DOGE, or Department of Government Efficiency?
Now, DOGE is a temporary contracted government organization, or formerly the United States Digital Service, and its work was to eliminate wasteful and fraudulent federal spending, and also eliminate excessive regulations. So the formation of DOGE sparked a series of controversy from the White House and Elon Musk versus USAID. So DOGE formed something called the Cost-Cutting Task Force to crack down irregularities in government institutions, majorly targeting the USAID offices. And it is during these crackdown activities that the scuffle arose, and DOGE cost-cutting task force were instead denied access to USAID offices by the USAID security detail, though the team later was allowed to access the areas with classified information, and that is after a long confrontation.
And what were the alleged irregularities that DOGE found in USAID?
Now, during DOGE's thorough audit and access towards USAID's classified information, it was found that USAID's funds had been allegedly misappropriated by being directed to projects that were not actually focusing on its mission. But instead, the funds were used for fraudulent, extravagant, and wasteful activities and spending in the name of promoting democracy, health, and various development projects in hundreds of countries overseas. Though some of the funding activities done by USAID were evident, like towards improving health systems, security, curbing disasters, and so on, it was nevertheless not convincing enough to prove to DOGE that these funds were used efficiently.
What kind of financial insufficiency did DOGE find in USAID?
Consequently, it is alleged that DOGE unearthed a series of financial mishandling caused by USAID, which was not in any way aligning with US national interests or foreign policy. And to make matters worse, USAID was being funded by the hard-earned money from an American taxpayer. But instead, this money from USAID went beyond its core values because it was expected to strictly provide humanitarian assistance based on majorly funding things like health, education, natural disasters, security. But shockingly, it is said that it was discovered that American taxpayers' money through USAID instead was also funding irrelevant projects across the world. For example, $20 million was given to Iraq for Iraq's Sesame Street. I don't know what that means. $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes. $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop banning trash. $27 million to give gift bags to illegals who are in US before deporting them. Millions were given to Afghans to grow crops instead of opium. But instead, the production of opium doubled. $300 million was given to Afghanistan to build diesel fuel power plants, though it instead collapsed. $200 million to Afghans to build a dam with water which turned out to be unsafe to use again. $200 million to build a road that was never used, a road to nowhere. Now, after bombing Syria, the same US again comes back and gives them $90 million for humanitarian aid. But again, it is alleged that that money was later diverted and given to Al-Qaeda. $1 million was given to an animal called a bat. Do you know a bat? This was money for research in a place called Wuhan in China. Continue. It is also alleged that USAID was funding Fashion Week in Paris. But remember, France itself had failed to pay its own NATO dues. But USAID again instead was paying for their Fashion Week. And this explanation alone can let you judge as to whether these funds were directly used for the right purpose or not.
Is that all about the wasteful spending of USAID?
No, what I have just told you is just a tip on the iceberg. Because I can go on and on and on trying to explain to you how this controversial spending of USAID took place beyond that. Okay? For example, $849,000 was given to the Bangladeshi transgender job fair. $1.9 million was given to Guatemala for sex change surgery, something like that. $55 million was given to Libya to strengthen their financial management process. I don't know what is that. $31.5 million was given to the USAID employees for counseling, organizational resilience, wellness, and work balance, something like that. $5.2 million was given to Nigeria to create something called the Sesame Street Nigerian version. Like Bangladesh, Bangladesh has benefited in a lot of several billions of US dollars, cutting across many projects that I cannot mention now because of time. But do you want me to continue? Please. Continue. 22 million US dollars was given to Egypt and Tunisia to increase tourism. Imagine. 520 million US dollars was paid to something called ESG consultants to teach people in Africa about countering climate change. 24.4 million US dollars was given to Georgia to rebuild something called green transportation alternatives. You get? 29 million US dollars was again given to Georgia to diversify crop agriculture. Continue. 4.5 million US dollars was given to another country called Kazakhstan to fight back against something called internet trolls. Is that humanitarian? 1.3 million US dollars was given again to Georgia to create something called comfortable environment for LGBT people. Do you need me to continue or I stop from here? Please continue because we need more. If you need more, let me tell you. There's something again which was given to this country called Djibouti, 420 million US dollars to build solar panels. 18,700 US dollars was given to a country called Honduras to help LGBT individuals vote during elections. It was in 2021. 5 million US dollars was given to China to reduce carbon emissions. 5.5 million US dollars was given to Uganda to improve the lives of LGBT individuals. 22,800 US dollars was given to another country called Peru to host DEI recruitment. Do you know DEI? DEI means diversity, equity, and inclusion, which includes the transgenders, gays, and so on. What a waste. 65.7 million US dollars was given to Congo, here just our neighbor, for vasectomy. Do you know vasectomy? Vasectomy is like a family planning for the men. The version of men of family planning. 595,000 US dollars was given to Uganda LGBT community to push back against the anti-LGBT legislation. 4.3 million US dollars was given to South Africa for men who have sex with fellow men. Can you imagine? 14.9 million US dollars was given to Cambodia to identify and enhance the leadership of LGBT leaders. 100,000 US dollars was given to this other country, Ghana, to conduct the DEI survey. I don't know what is that. 49,000 US dollars was given to another country called Uzbekistan to conduct the DEI fellowship. 30,000 US dollars was given to another country, Senegal, for DEI facilitated conversation. And these are the many ways among many others that the USAID was allegedly wasting from American taxpayers' money. Why exactly does the White House and Elon Musk want to dump USAID? The current US president has been a long-term critic of USAID, claiming that it does not give value to the taxpayers' money. And he came out to single out USAID with strong criticism. Elon Musk, on the other side, says that USAID should be permanently closed, arguing that even freezing its funding temporarily is not enough, since according to him, USAID had become nothing but a criminal organization. So the White House has published a list of USAID projects that I have just mentioned a while ago, which it said that they were evidence of waste and abuse. And this is why the American head of state had to sign an executive order that put almost all international spending on pause, at least maybe for a 90-day review. Now, however, the waivers were later issued for humanitarian programs, but the announcement upended the world of international development and disrupted services. So programs including those providing medication to the world's poorest and installing clean water supplies and so on had to stop overnight, unfortunately.
Can the current US president shut down the US aid?
What you should know is that the White House has significant influence over USAID, though its power over USAID is theoretically limited. Now, what you should know also is that USAID was created via Congress, Foreign Assistance Act in 1961. And the law mandated the government agency to be set up and tasked with administering overseas spending. And this is when the then president created USAID through executive order. Now, the agency status is an executive agency that was enshrined by US law in 1998. So in short, this means that the current president cannot necessarily simply abolish USAID by just signing the executive order. Continue. And any attempts to do so will almost certainly face strong challenges in courts, Congress, and so on. Though it is now evident that this organization had been misappropriating funds, and its permanent closure is possibly imminent as it stands right now. What would be the effect of closing USAID? Actually, the effect and changes will be felt globally. Because other most important activities run by USAID ranged from providing prosthetic limbs to soldiers injured in Ukraine, clearing landmines and containing the spread of Ebola in Africa, fighting HIV, providing clean water, and so on, will be affected. And therefore, this may cripple some countries which directly and genuinely dependent on this and still needs this. Though it is said that this kind of humanitarian assistance, which is still under USAID, was given a waiver, who knows, and was allowed to carry on, maybe so, especially in the health sector and when it comes to curbing Ebola and HIV/AIDS. Nevertheless, the disbanding of USAID was both good and bad towards African countries in the same measure, because it would cripple the health sector. Though now there is a waiver, no one knows. And on the other hand, this is a wake-up call to African countries to wake up, improve its tax system, fight corruption, come up with efficient economic policies, invest in research and education that may lead to countries towards self-reliance in health and economic sectors. And this shall only be done with astute political system and stability and policies that may attract innovation that may lead to self-dependence. Otherwise, only depending on USAID has made most African countries to become lazy, placed on the receiving end, with no critical maneuver towards self-reliance.
And where does the disbanding of USAID leave America's influence to the world?
Now, the cessation of US funds would hurt the US allies, and this would leave a vacuum which will make US opponents to gladly come and fill that vacuum. And the opponents are none other than Russia and China. For example, look at Eastern Europe, for instance. Eastern Europe has been a long-term geopolitical battleground where Western foreign policy interests often collide with those of Russia and China. Now, China's influence is increasing very fast in Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa, and it has become an increasingly important trade partner and investor in recent years, where they have invested over $160 billion US, financing hundreds of projects while US cuts the aid. Now you see the effect. So the possible closing of USAID creates even more room for China influence. Now, when we look at this, together with the Chinese influence over TikTok, one of its biggest propaganda tools, which was another cause of contention with USA, and the coming for this AI tool, the Chinese AI tool called DeepSeek, that looks to overpower ChatGPT, deeply shows that USA risks to be overturned by China as a major world superpower. Yes. But anyway, let us wait and see what unfolds. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel for more information beyond this. Use these words the way you want and leave us alone.